What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Rod from DBZSHFIGS.com, and today I'm bringing to you episode number 2 of the Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts hot takes. So if you missed the first one, basically I asked the members of my Discord to come up with hot takes about the Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts line. That way I could cover 10 of them in this video, going from 10%, meaning it's the least controversial, all the way up to 100%, which is the heat magnets, the most controversial takes out there. So if you happen to want to be part of the next video and your hot take might be featured, make sure you head over to the Discord server for the channel. That way you could be notified when I'm taking submissions for the next episode. Now listen, I just want to make it, 100% clear that these are just opinions, not facts. If you agree, cool with that. If you disagree, you're entitled to your own opinion as well. So without further ado, let's start light and slowly crank the temperature up. At 10%, I have this comment from Guy Man. If a figure costs more than $50, it should have an effect piece or a stand of some kind. So this, I put it in the 10% because I don't really find this to be very controversial. I think most people will agree with me when I say that if a figure costs 50 bucks, which desensitized with Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts being like 50, 60, 70, $80, that $50 doesn't really sound like that much, but that is a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. And the least thing that Tamashii Nations could do with these figures is include one of their clear basic stands with them. If I'm paying over $50 for a premium action figure line that literally markets itself around posing and action, I should not be left just holding a figure by itself. I'm not asking for a spirit bomb every time. I'm not asking for a light up Kamehameha, but something like literally just a tiny blast effect, or like I said, just the regular clear stand. It's not gonna cost Tamashii Nations all that much money if third-party companies can include a stand with their figures, and they already charge 50 bucks, like with the Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Vegito that the Demoniacal Fit came out with. I don't understand how Tamashii Nation doesn't have the capability, especially at the mass manufacturing that they have for these figures, to just include a clear stand with these, especially when Bandai already have all the molds. At this price point, accessories aren't bonuses, they're expectations. And when cheaper lines or third-party companies include them by default, S.H.Figuarts looks very stingy, not premium. Number 2, at the 20% mark, here is from Brown to the Bone. Exclusive edition figures should come with all of the accessories if Tamashii wants to raise the price. If you want to remove accessories, then keep the price the same at least. So this is kind of referencing to like the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives where, for example, with Grade 8 Vegeta, we got like new painting, but they removed a bunch of the cool accessories and still charged more. That just doesn't really make sense to me. So if you're gonna lock it behind premium Bandai or a premium exclusive or an event exclusive, you're gonna raise the price and you're gonna add limited availability, then why are you removing accessories? I just don't get it. That makes no sense to me. You can't say, hey, this is more expensive because it's exclusive, and then give me less plastic. That's not premium. That's backwards. If you want to cut accessories, fine, but at least keep the price the same. That way, we don't feel like we're getting screwed out here. But don't upcharge and downgrade. That's how you turn hype into resentment real fast. And I was hoping that Tamashii Nations would already have learned this lesson by now. At number 30, I have Moosh25. He says, or she says, 4.0 should focus more on the latter half of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super before doing OG Dragon Ball and GT stuff. Now, this is a little bit controversial just because I know there are people that really, really love Dragon Ball, the OG, as well as GT. We're still missing, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. We're still missing Baby, Omega Shenron, stuff like that. And then from OG Dragon Ball, there's still plenty of characters, Bandit, Jamsha, etc. So while I do kind of agree, because Dragon Ball Z is kind of my favorite series, like probably most people, I would say, I don't want to discount the support for OG Dragon Ball and GT. So with the 4.0s, with the Cell Games Begin Goku, I do feel like they're already heading towards, doing the Cell Saga and then probably the Majin Buu Saga with a little bit of sprinkle of maybe OG Dragon Ball and GT stuff and Dragon Ball Super stuff. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that. The largest demand, the most iconic looks, and the most reused bodies are in late Dragon Ball Z and Super. We have Super Saiyan forms, God forms, armor updates, arc specific looks. These are the figures that benefit the most from like the 4.0 engineering. So yeah, I would say finish the core first, then go wild on all the extracurriculars. So yeah, partially agree with this one. Hot take number 4, at 40%, we have GCV, who says third-party companies should just leave Saiyans alone for a while, since it seems like Tamashii is covering all their forms and stuff with the new 4.0 releases. Instead, third-party companies should focus on important characters such as the humans or anybody else that Tamashii refuses to give us. So this one is a little spicy, but it is logical in my opinion. Tamashii is clearly looking to lock down the Saiyans with the 4.0s. We've gotten so many looks at Vegeta and Goku and Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, everything in between, multiple forms, multiple characters, multiple reissues. So why are third-party companies still making their 12th Goku head sculpt? I don't understand. Now, I will say, obviously, Goku, he sells. Vegeta, he sells. These are easy figures to move, but I just think it's a very saturated market. I think third-party companies are letting a lot of money go because what I look forward in the third parties are to fill in those holes, those gaps of those characters that have not received the figure form yet. Have you seen the claim that the Moreau figure is getting just because no other third-party company is making a figure of that character? Tamashii is probably not making a figure of that character in a long time. So to me, that was like an instant buy, and I'm someone that doesn't really go out and buy every single third-party figure. I don't really care about the Gokus. I don't really care about the Vegetas. I've said it many times. I go after figures that I think Tamashii Nations will probably not release like within the next year or two, which Moreau fits right in. So to me, if I were to give any advice to third-party companies, instead of going with the Saiyans, go where Bandai refuses to go. Get more human characters, more minor villains, more one-off arc characters, Dragon Ball exclusive. Give us characters S.H.Figuarts is too scared or too slow to touch. Saiyans will always sell, but filling the gaps is how third-party companies actually will win fans. Hot take number 5, at the 50% mark, we have Tyler Eva 143. I think that resetting the line with Games Begin Goku is the best choice Tamashii could have made, and they were gonna be destined for failure if they kept making Guru releases and stuff. So honestly, I put this at the 50% mark because I think this is kind of split, right? From what I gather from this comment, he's saying that he doesn't really like when they're making side characters like Guru or like maybe Nell and stuff like that, that resetting the line gives consumers a new reason to buy, Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, Piccolo, Krillin, because of course we want that brand new articulation, that brand new technology within the figures. So this is giving Tamashii Nations like a new leg to stand on, just coming out with a new body mold where they could go back and re-release the same characters we've already had, but with this new upgrade. To me, I don't necessarily agree with that completely. I'm someone that really enjoys when Tamashii Nations, when they release those figures that I never thought I would see in the line. Nell, Guru, I never thought they would be released in the line. Could they have been better? Maybe. Nell was pretty perfect in my opinion. Guru was cool. Of course, he's very expensive, and it's always going to come back to price for me. I think any figure can be released, but when they charge so much for that figure, I think the hype instantly dies. Although the Games Begin Goku wasn't a perfect release, I think it just enables Tamashii Nations to propel themselves forward, to keep making money in a sense and keep releasing figures where they could get more income from selling Gokus to then hopefully siphon into creating new molds for those, characters that I never thought would be in the line. So for me, I guess I just see this as a 50-50. You're either very happy that you get brand new 4.0 figures of the characters we've gotten over so many times in the line, like Goku, Vegeta, etc. But I think that I wouldn't really call this a reset, nor do I want it to be a reset. I just want it to be a little bump on the road where, we split off into, okay, let's re-release all these characters like Trunks, Goku, Vegeta with the new 4.0, but let's also at the same time sprinkle in those minor characters like Nell, etc. At number 6, 60%, we have Luke here. So he's basically saying that he does not believe that effect parts are required or needed with every figure. He likes what they're doing with the new Super Saiyan God Goku, where it's just a retail $37.99 figure. Stuff like crossed arm for Vegeta and Piccolo are fine and I think are needed, but just adding random effects just for the sake of adding them are not required with most figures. What I gather from this is basically Luke is saying, I would much rather have a cheaper figure like, the retail price Super Saiyan God Goku than just adding an effect we've gotten so many times over like a Kamehameha and then suddenly making that figure like $50, $60, $70. And I tend to agree with that. I don't think every figure requires, an effect piece per se. I think it should be on a case-by-case basis, like he mentioned with Vegeta and Piccolo. I don't really care for effect pieces from those. However, the crossed arm piece is really, really, something that you identify with Vegeta and Piccolo. That's just their standard pose. I wish, in my opinion, of course, I've said this many times as a suggestion to Tamashii Nations. I think they should have side releases for like effect pieces specifically for Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts. I feel like they could have a quote-unquote Kamehameha effect piece, accessory pack or something that they sell for like $10, $20. And it's just a Kamehameha with a bunch of maybe a wind-blown effect piece, an aura effect piece or something. That way in the future, if you buy a retail Goku for $37.99 and you already have the accessory pack, that accessory pack can go with all the Gokus you have already. Same thing with something like a Piccolo. Maybe they sell a special beam cannon accessory pack that you could then pair up with all your Piccolos that you have. I think that'd be a pretty cool idea. So for the most part, I do agree with this take. I don't think every figure needs some sort of effect piece or stuff like that. I think it's more of a case-to-case scenario with each character, but I know a lot of people will probably disagree with this one. I feel that everyone wants to get their money's worth. Everyone wants to get every single effect piece out there, every single power that anyone has, a special beam cannon, a Gallic gun, etc., which I think are needed, but there's certain ways to go about it, and I don't want to inflate figures prices just for the sake of inflating and adding stuff on there. At number 7, 70%, we have It's Sack, and he says, at the rate we going, third party will eventually surpass Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts from Tamashii Nations, of course, is what he's referencing there. So this is pretty controversial, to be honest, because I do feel some people already believe that third parties have surpassed Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts, especially the big third parties, like Demon Aquafit, Beast Deities, Kami1. I still don't know how to say it. Sorry, guys. This isn't a maybe, it's a trajectory. Third party companies are quickly improving their sculpt quality, their paint accuracy, their accessory count, their risk taking. Meanwhile, for the most part, Tamashii Nations keeps playing it safe. They, of course, still have the official license. They still have that consistency, that QC, that availability. But if they don't evolve faster, third-party companies won't just compete. They'll begin to lead. And once collectors feel that shift, it's very hard to undo. So to third parties out there, again, keep doing what you're doing. Keep improving in every single aspect that you can. Improve the quality. keep the price the same, or if you can't, even lower it. And also take risk. That's what we want to see. That's what the community wants to see. We want to see those characters that we have not seen being officially released by Tamashii Nations. That's what's going to take you guys to the next level. If you could master the art of releasing a figure of a character that has never been released, that gives you the edge in every single pillar. You know, there's third parties out there that are smaller that all they do is just release Gokus and Vegetas because they already see the mold. They've already seen Tamashii Nations create so many of the figures that in a way they're kind of copying but making better. But, you know, emphasis on the copying. We want to see third parties innovate. We want to see them reach that next level. And I feel that within the next year or two, we're going to definitely reach that level, because at this rate, Tamashii Nations did come up with that 4.0 engineering, but I have not seen them implemented on any new characters. Whereas I think something like a Demon can achieve that 4.0 and can release their own new figures about new characters. At number 8, we have 80% from Wicked3_. Daima is the worst thing to happen to Dragon Ball since Goku's heart disease. I just gotta say, that's a wild statement. Even Tyler down here says Daima catching strays anywhere, bro. This one just cracked me up. And of course, I'm gonna reference this back to just Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts in particular. Daima as a series, I will say, although not the best series I have ever seen, I don't think it was as bad as people make it out to be. I think it had some good moments. I of course loved the Super Saiyan 4 as well as the Vegeta Super Saiyan 3, you know, inclusions in the series that were genuine surprises to me. But in terms of Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts, I do feel that the Daima S.H.Figuarts have been a net negative to the series. Daima just feels like resources diverted, slots wasted, energy misplaced. Instead of finishing long requested characters, we're getting figures nobody asked for in a style that actively turns collectors off. I feel that the Daima minifigures were such a letdown. I feel that they're just basically shelf warmers at this point. They've been on sale on every single website for the longest time. And then when you actually have some genuine, maybe potentially cool ones like Glorio, they charge an arm and a leg for it. $94.99 is an insane price for a Daima figure. Personally, I don't really like the Daima aesthetic, to be honest. I think it looks a little too cartoonish, a little too much for kids, which is maybe what they're going for, but I don't know any kids spending $94.99 on a figure. So it's just kind of confusing as to what they're aiming for, who the target audience is for these figures. But at the end of the day, if you like Daima, cool. But for Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts collectors, this line just feels like a detour that nobody wanted. And the fact that it's still continuing on to 2026 is just insane to me. At least release the cool ones, you know, the Tamagamis, release Majin Ku, Majin Du, release the Third Eye Goma. Those are actually ones that I see people wanting to add to their collections. Like, I'm tired of these little characters where I just feel ripped off anytime I open the figures. But that's just my take. Obviously, I know there's going to be people that love Daima and maybe even love Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts or Daima figures. Now, I do think there is one thing most people will agree is that S.H.Figuarts Vegeta Mini sucks and it's the worst figure in the line. At number 9, 90%, we have It's Sack, and he says lots of people who hate on S.H.Figuarts are just nitpicky and are still going to buy and use the figure anyways, unless it's Daima Vegeta. Gotta give you extra points for including that one. That was the longest running joke in the channel. I just hate mini Daima Vegeta. But anyways, this one is very controversial, to be honest, because, you know, some people nitpick these figures a lot, and you know, some people are catching on to that. But then on the other hand, other people are like, why wouldn't I be nitpicking these $50, $60, $70, $100 figures? Like, I shouldn't buy these figures and feel like I didn't get my money's worth, especially when I'm spending $100 on premium Bandai with $10 shipping. It's just crazy to me, but I tend to fall right in the middle. I'm sorry, I can't take a side on this one because I can honestly see both sides. Like, I hate when all I see is negativity towards the line, because I do think that I really appreciate Tamashii Nations, giving us everything that we've gotten. But then at the same time, on the other end, it's like they're not doing enough, in my opinion. Sometimes I feel that they're too greedy, that they keep making worser figures in terms of like paint and shading and stuff like that. Price to plastic ratio keeps going down, and it's hard to ignore. So I sit on a thin line of, I'm grateful for these figures, but at the same time, I'm wishing that they could, take notes from the community and actually implement them into the figures so that it's a win-win for everyone. It's a win-win for them because they get the figures, they sell them, they make money, and then it's a win-win from us because we're getting exactly what we're paying for, exactly what we wanted. Everyone loves Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts. We love them, of course. These are the figures we dreamed of having as children. Figures with an immense amount of articulation, incredible accessories, and everything in between. I never thought as a kid we would have figures where you could change faces, you could change hands, you had a bunch of different effect pieces and aura effect pieces and everything in between. So to me, it's like a dream come true, but at the same time is, there's obvious things that can be improved on, and they just refuse to improve on to make them even better. So I know there's probably going to be comments on both sides. People are, probably going to tell me stop being thankful to the billion-dollar corporation, or, and then there's other people that are going to be like, yeah, people always find something to knock on these figures. Like, just be happy they're out. So let me know which side you stand on. I'm really interested to see. Leave a comment below what you think. Where do you stand on this one? And last one, at number 10, 100% the most controversial in my opinion. We have Blue Fires here saying the releases this year are probably some of the worst we've gotten so far. And I'm not counting the ones announced this year but will release next year. So this is, I honestly, when I read it, I didn't know if I agreed or not, but then I went over to my website, DBZSHFIGS.com, where you can find every single release in the Dragon Ball S.H.Figuarts line. I looked at the year of 2025, and I gotta agree with you, Blue Fires. I counted 11 Gokus released this year, which is kind of insane. Out of 24 total releases, almost 50% were Goku. We had Tamashii Nations Lightning Week Super Saiyan 2 Goku. We had Lowest Born Saiyan. We have Adult Daima. We have Super Saiyan Mini Daima. We have the 40th Anniversary V-Jump Edition. We had the Best Selection Legendary Super Saiyan. We had the Games Begin Goku. We had the Tamashii Nation Store Exclusive Ultra Instinct. And we had Super Saiyan 4 Mini Goku. That's a lot of Gokus. That's a lot of Tamashii Nations just resting on their laurels and not innovating at all. Apart from that, when it comes to this year, there was an extreme amount of re-releases, in my opinion. Of course, that's not a negative thing because we did get some pretty cool figures, for retail once again. But at the same time, I can't help but think it was somehow kind of lazy, We did get that Super Saiyan 2 Goku from Lightning Week, which was a re-release. We did get, of course, the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives of Beast Gohan, Great Ape Vegeta, Demon King Piccolo, which were all basically re-releases. We got the Tamashii Nation's Best Selection Legendary Super Saiyan, which was a re-release. And we got the 2 40th Anniversary reissues of Broly and Cooler, which were both re-releases. So, again, not a whole lot of innovation going there. And then when it comes to standout figures, in my opinion, I gotta say my favorite was probably the V-Jump 40th Anniversary Dragon and Kid Goku. But other than that, it's honestly kind of plain. Like, if I removed the reissues, because I would put like Final Form Cooler on there or like the Super Saiyan Broly. Other than that, I mean, the Gogeta was kind of a bust. All the Daima figures, you already know what I think about that. Lowest Born Saiyan was cool, but why was it North America exclusive? It's like, it's pretty hard to pick a next best figure, which is kind of sad in my opinion. So throughout the year, I did think all the releases were being very cool and I was looking forward to the figures. But now looking back, now that we're in December, I'm like, we didn't really get that much special things, to be honest. We hardly got any new characters. You know, we did get Pan from GT. We got our first Gogeta. We got Goma, that was one of the worst figures I've ever had with the worst price tags ever. We're getting the Super Saiyan 4 mini Goku. That one's kind of cool, but it's still a mini figure, so I don't really care that much, especially for a $70 figure. Now, the one cool thing about 2025 was, of course, the beginning of the 4.0 era with the Cell Games Begin Goku. But again, that's still just the Goku being released again, so it's hard to be all that excited. So Blue Fires, honestly, I gotta agree with you on this one. Although I know there will be people that really enjoyed every single release. This year just felt very safe, very repetitive, very low impact. Too many figures felt like placeholders instead of must-haves. It's not that they were outwardly terrible, but they were kind of forgettable. And for a premium line, that's a pretty bad thing, to be honest. But anyways, that is the end of my list. If you made it this far, congratulations, you survived the heat. Let me know which take you agree with, which one you hated, and which one should have been even hotter. Like, comment, subscribe, hype. And again, if you want to potentially be featured in the next Hot Takes episode, make sure you join the Discord server, where there will be instructions on how to input your hot take and you may be chosen. But anyways, just really appreciate you guys and I hope you have a nice rest of your day.